Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video on PrizePicks. My camera is fully broken right now, but it's all right. In the next few days, we'll be having it back up and running. But now, all we're worried about is the free picks for NBA Tuesday. So we're going to go ahead and talk about all these. But first up, do me a solid, drop a like on this video. Literally will take you 2 seconds, completely free, so go ahead and drop that like. And if you watch till the end of this video, I'll give you all my free plays, my best picks for NBA Tuesday. And we got a huge day coming up. Let's just take a look at this slate. 5 games of basketball, only 5 games, but they are a ton of good ones. We got the Grizzlies taking on the Knicks. We got the Sixers taking on the Celtics. That has been a good game. I think we've had that matchup twice this season already, and it's been absolutely electric both times. And then we got 2 games that a lot of people are going to be locked into with the Thunder, Warriors, and Nuggets all playing in those later games right there. So we're going to talk about all that. But first up, let me make sure all of you guys are in the free community. So this is where I drop my Discord plays. This is the VIP slate. Unfortunately, we did not hit Packers on the money line. That was absolutely embarrassing the way that game was played. I mean, literally, I can't say anything. The Packers might actually be cooked. Losing to the Panthers and then losing to the Eagles like that in Lambeau, that's back-to-back losses that they've had in Lambeau, and they've put up literally 20 points combined in those losses. But we're not going to talk about that. What ended up cashing was this: Saquon on rushing yards. Bulls Mavericks cashed out. Trailblazers plus 4.5 cashed out. So even though we had a rough day with the Packers not coming through for us, we still came out with profit. And that's exactly what you're going to see from a profitable sports bettor, is they're always going to come out with profit, not 100% of the time, but even on losing days, even on days when things don't go as well as usual, they still manage to come out with profit. And that's exactly what we do in this community. So I also got free plays up here as well and an open chat. So there's a ton of stuff to be on here. Make sure you guys are joining the Discord. It is completely free, like I said, and it's the first link in the description. Once you guys hit that link, you'll be sent over to a page that looks exactly like this. And it's the top link right here: BAM Community, Fantasy, and Free Picks. Now, let's go ahead and start talking about some of these plays, because there's a ton of stuff to get into. There's an absolute ton of stuff to get into. And we're going to start off with the Grizzlies versus the Knicks. So in this one, you've got Jalen Brunson, who was red hot to start the season. Looked like he couldn't score less than 30 points a night. And then these last 3 games, he's really been putting up some duds. And if we look at what's happening here, he made 6 out of his 17 field goals. Here he made 9 out of his 20 field goals. And here he made 6 out of his 14 field goals, right? And if we look before, that's not ridiculously different from the efficiency. He was usually getting around that 45 to 55% mark. Only this one game against the Wizards. It's just the amount of shots that he's taking has drastically gone down. If you look at these games, he's getting up 25 shots, 25 shots, 26 shots, 20 shots. And a lot of that has to do with just they hadn't really figured out their identity, the Knicks. And when a team doesn't know their identity and they have a player as solid as Jalen Brunson, a star player, it's a very common thing to do for the team to just let him handle the ball. Play ISO. Just let Jalen Brunson play ISO, right? Now they kind of have an identity. There's a lot more passing going on, but we need to look at the matchup and see where is Memphis really the weakest and how are we going to be attacking them in this game. So one thing that we have to know is that every time a star player has gone up against the Grizzlies recently, they've popped off. I want you guys to look at this. Shea, his line was 31.5, which is a ridiculously high line for anyone not named SGA. He popped for 35 anyways. Cade Cunningham, his line was at 26. He went for 33, and D-Book, his line was at 30. He went for 32, right? Every time. What happens is the Grizzlies like to stick on their men, and they really are a very bad team at defending an isolated ball handler who is just this good at playing his position, right? So Jalen Brunson right here on the over on points is one that I absolutely love. The thing is, his line should be at 27 or 28 points, because that's honestly where I believe it should be for the entirety of the season, barring no injuries, right? That's the kind of player that he is. He's very consistent, and unless he takes a huge leap in the second half of the season, that's probably where his line should be. A 27-point line is where you are looking to be at. But they think they're going to catch a lot of people taking the under because of these last few games. The only thing that's been different is he hasn't gotten the shots to fall, and he's been winning by a ridiculous amount. 1 by 17, 1 by 23, 1 by 36. So obviously he's not going to be shooting the ball. Look at this. 1 by 12, lost by 10, lost by 10, lost by 8, 1 by 10. So all of these games right here were a 10 to 12 point difference, right? Now these last 3 games, some of them have been up to a 36% swing, or Yeah, 36-point swing, which means Jalen Brunson, even if he does get minutes, they're going to be garbage time minutes that he's not really going to carry. He's not going to really be firing up shots, trying to boost his stats. This game against the Grizzlies, I expect it could be a little bit closer. The Knicks are obviously favored in this game. They are favored by 10.5 points, but I do think the Grizzlies could make this one close, which means Jalen Brunson would put up quite a few shots. And as we know, Thunder, Shea went over, Pistons, Cade went over, and Suns, D-Book went over. That's the kind of stats you have to be looking at before you make an uneducated pick. Now, we're moving on to the Raptors versus the Nets. And like I always say with Michael Porter Jr., if you're taking him, you've lost your mind, because sometimes this man could literally go 1 of 12 from 3, and then the next day, he could go 5 of 10 from 3 and shoot 50%. He could go 4 of 9 from 3 and shoot 45%, right? You really don't know with this man. All you know is he's going to get up a ton of threes, right? That's literally all you know, but I'm not going to be the one to try and predict whether the threes are going to fall for him on that day. We're going over to the assists actually the rebounds, for this exact game right here, because Nick Claxton is the player that I want to target, and it's very similar to the last one, right? He's just gone up against a very tough rebounding team in the New York Knicks, right? Cat is a very tough rebounder. And it's not just Cat, right? The Knicks have so many hustle players. Josh Hart is namely one of them. But really everybody on the Knicks, their culture is just to hustle and get the rebounds. They're such a good team off the boards. So it's not a surprise to me that Nick Claxton actually slipped and didn't go over in that game against the Knicks. But now he plays up against the Toronto Raptors. And as you guys can see there at the bottom of your screen, the Raptors are the 24th worst team when it comes to rebounds allowed. So what does that mean? That basically means that they are a bottom 6 rebounding team. A bottom 6 rebounding team in all of basketball. This over is at 233.5 and the spread is only 9.5. I say only because when it comes to the Nets, you're expecting like a 15-point spread. That's just how bad this team is. And if we look at last few games, it's difficult to tell because Embiid was on a minutes restriction. Mobley actually didn't end up hitting this one. Davis got 10 rebounds, which would still be the over for him, and Wemby got 15 rebounds, right? So basically all those players with Nick Claxton's current line of 7.5 would still be hitting the over, so I absolutely love it. Now let's get into the next one, which is Warriors versus Thunder. And we're going back over to the points for this one because I saw a line that I absolutely loved, and we're just going to go ahead and hammer it in this one. So why can I not find him right now? There he is. Okay. I was literally just trying to take Shea. So I think I must have scrolled past him at the top. But yeah, Shea against the Warriors. I absolutely love this one because, as we know, the Thunder are 7.5 point favorites in this one, right? His expected minutes are between 30 and 40. He's going to play quite a bit in this game, right? When it comes to their defensive rank versus position, they're very high. When it comes to defensive rank before his DPT, there's defenses... So before his versus position, they're pretty high. Versus DPT, they're very, very low. So it's difficult to tell. Really what these conflicting numbers tell us is that we haven't had as big enough of a sample size as we really want to, right? It's only been like 10 or 11 games so far. And as you guys can see, there's only a couple of players that they would consider similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that have played the Warriors. But when Devin Booker played them, he popped off for 38. And when DeRozan played them, he hit his over at 25 points, right? And when it comes to Shea, this is what I absolutely love. When it comes to Shea, you want to look at the player shooting zones, right? This is the most balanced you'll ever see a player, right? 25% of his shots come from above the break threes, 22 come from long mid-ish twos, 23 come from the paint, and 30 come from right near the rim, right? That is such a good shooting chart because it literally means when you look at the opposing defense, right? Oh, sure, the Warriors are decent at defending the three. They're pretty good at defending the paint and at the rim, but they're very weak at defending the paint, right? They're decent at defending the mid-range and the rim. When it comes to the paint, that's where you're going to attack him. And Shea knows this, right? Shea loves getting to the elbow and doing that little, I want to say Luka-esque move where you just jump into the defender and get an easy and one. Shea is so good at that. Whether you call it foul baiting or not, he's able to sink the shots. And when all we need right here is 32 points from him, he obviously hasn't hit this in the majority of his games because he's gone under just barely at 30 points. If you want, go ahead and bump the line down to like 30 or whatever it's called, 30 plus points. You could take it at 29.5 points. I don't hate that play if that makes you feel better, but I'm just taking it solid 31.5 points. Give me that one on the over. But now we're moving into the next one, and it's Tyrese Maxey once again that we're going to be targeting because, quite honestly, VJ Edgecombe can't really be trusted as of yet. I love this man. I think he's going to be a great player in the league. I think he's an athletic freak. I think VJ Edgecombe is all that in a bag of chips, right? Definitely worth the top 5 overall pick that they paid for him. But when it comes to taking him on the points, you don't really know, right? He could impact the game in several ways. Here he's only shooting 9 shots. Here he's shooting 15 shots and only making 5 of them. It's just not a great look, right? At least we can tell that he's still putting up shots, but we cannot really see him landing a lot of those. And when it comes against the Celtics, he has been very good, 34 points in the debut and then 17 points right here. But someone who's been even better against the Celtics and really just in the whole season has been Tyrese Maxey, right? 40 points in that original game on 41 minutes. And then right here, he barely went under his line, 44 minutes and 26 points on 50% shooting from the field. But Tyrese Maxey has been on fire. His line is at 27.5. And this one, Celtics are a very decent defense. That's really how I would explain them. Honestly, the Celtics are such a middle-of-the-road team, it's hard to tell. Like, all of their success is pretty much based off of, or at least their offensive success is pretty much based off of how well they shoot the 3-ball on that given night, because they're just putting up so many shots that their 3-point percentage pretty much directly correlates to them winning or losing the basketball game. But when it comes to the defensive end, Tyrese Maxey has been able to cut up, when it comes to being on offense, right? Tyrese Maxey has been able to cut up opposing defenses. That's where I was trying to get with that sentence. And as you guys can see, he's gone over this line in 7 games, and he's only gone under this line in 3 games. And if you bump this down to 26 points, he's hit the over in every single game. That is ridiculous consistency. No other player is looking this solid over the span of 11 games, right? Or what is it? How many games? It's 9 games, right? Going on 10 after the Celtics won, right? No other player is this consistent. When it comes to the player, he obviously shoots a lot from 3. The opposing defense, they're a decent defense right here. They're very good at defending the rim. Josh Minot, I would say, is one of the most underrated players right now, but that's neither here nor there. The player that we are actually going to be talking about is Tyrese Maxey, right? But now let's move into the last one right here. We're going ahead and talking about the Nuggets and the Kings. The Nuggets and the Kings. Okay, it looks like the Pacers also have a game. Pacers versus Jazz. I'm going to pull this one up for you guys too. Pacers versus Jazz. It says tomorrow. That's probably why I threw it off for me. But tomorrow is actually Tuesday. I'm recording this early on a Monday night. We're going to wait for the odds to drop on that one. I might drop a free play, but this game might honestly be a fade game. The Pacers are such a weird team to predict with all the injuries. And the Jazz, although they are intriguing, they're still the Jazz. They still show very much signs of being a Utah-led team with a lot of inconsistencies, right? So we're just going to go ahead and focus on this one now, which is the Nuggets going up against the Kings. And there is one man who has been sneakily underrated. I want to say for his entire NBA career, but especially this season. And that man's Aaron Gordon. I want you guys to look at this. The Sacramento Kings are terrible at defending against the corner 3, right? Well, this is weird. They're very good at defending against this corner, but not this corner. I don't buy that. They're bad at defending against corner 3s, and they are really, really bad. The worst in the NBA at defending against players shooting from the paint. Now, what does Aaron Gordon like to do most? He likes to sit right here, catch and shoot, catch and shoot, catch and shoot. When he's not getting the ball, he backdoor cuts. He sits in here, he gets his dunk, right? That is exactly what Aaron Gordon does best. And that's how he's been cooking defenses these last few games, right? He just played against the Kings recently, had 20 points against them. Played against the Heat right after that, 24. And then the Warriors, of course, he hit the over here with 18. And yeah, I'll show you guys exactly where Aaron Gordon takes his shots, right over here, and then in the 3-point zone, right? Sometimes he's in the corner. A lot of times he's above the break because he's cutting in and out of the paint a ton, right? Aaron Gordon's off-ball movement needs to be studied. Really just everybody who plays with Jokic has no reason not to move off the ball. But one play I would be staying away from, and a lot of people are going to hate this play. One play I'm staying away from is Jokic over on points, right? Jokic on points is one of the most inconsistent plays because although the Nuggets are going to win the game, right? Look at this. 1-1-1-1, lost 1-1-1-1-1-1, lost 1. They've only lost 2 games so far, which was against the Portland Trailblazers and, of course, the opener against the Warriors in overtime. So they have a ridiculous set of wins. Let me say that again. Jokic scoring his over is not at all correlated right now to the Nuggets winning. And that is a very weird thing to say. Because when it comes to Shea, when it comes to Steph, when it comes to Ant, when it comes to Wemby, right? When these players go over, their team is likely going to win, right? Jokic's completely different because his points line is so high that even if he goes under, he's going to make up for it in assists, right? Here, he got 14 points against the Suns, but watch, he popped off for 15 assists, and they won the game by 22 points, right? When it comes to the rebounds, he's putting in a lot of work here on the front end of the season, but he was not putting in a lot of work on the points in the front end of the season, right? So with Jokic, there is so much gravity that he has, so much impact, and so many different avenues that he can impact this game that taking him over on points is just a coin flip, right? It's just saying, I think Jokic is going to be shooting the ball today because I don't think the defense is going to pressure him, right? That's a terrible strategy. What if the defense pressures him a ton and then he pops off on assists, right? What if the defense backs off of him and pushes him to the side and then he ends up, popping off on the defensive side and getting a ton of rebounds, right? You never really know with Jokic, and all that we know is that he's going to try to win the game, right? In any way possible, he's going to try to win the game. That sounds really stupid, but because he's a player like so many avenues to attack, right? With a guy like Luka, it's not only the case, right? You can either shoot or you can pass. And with a guy like Jokic, it is the same two things, but he does it at such a high level. It is absolutely nuts. If you haven't watched Jokic this season, I would turn on a Jokic game. Maybe not this one versus the Kings. This might be a snooze fest. I expect the Nuggets to win by a lot. But watch Jokic this season. He might actually be playing his best basketball yet. And that's not even crazy to say. But yeah, that's the last game of the night. It's tipping off at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So that's a ridiculously late tip-off. But yeah, that's all I got for the video. Those are my top plays for Tuesday. Like I said, we'll have the camera back soon. I appreciate you guys. Catch you in the next one. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video on PrizePicks. In this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my best plays, not just PrizePicks and DFS, but also some sportsbook plays for Wednesday in the NBA, because we've got some great games. And I'm just telling you that because look at this. We've got 12 games of hoops, and we've got some bangers. Mainly Spurs versus Warriors and Lakers versus Thunder. Those are the big ones. Also a couple sneaky games in there, right? You got Pistons versus Bulls, two teams who have been severely overperforming, and that's a great thing. Overperforming is a good thing. We're going to go ahead and talk about exactly the plays for that. Knicks versus Magic is an interesting one, and then Clippers, Denver as the nightcap, right? So there's a ton of stuff to get into, but first up, do me a solid, drop a like on this video, and now let's move in to the Discord. So the Discord is where I drop my free plays and mainly my VIP plays, but there's also an open chat in here as well, right? So you can talk with all these guys, free picks, VIP picks. Yesterday, the free pick absolutely smacked. I told everybody, go ahead and take Thunder on the spread. It was only minus 6.5 for no reason. I don't know why it was minus 6.5. The Thunder are a better team than the Warriors. This is just so clear cut. Steph ended up getting 11 points in this game to Shea's 28, right? And I'm not saying Shea's better than Steph, although right now I do believe he is. It's just that the Thunder are such a put-together team. And we're going to be talking about the Thunder in today's video because they're going up against the Lakers, right? But let's go ahead and get started right now. We're going to hop into play number one, and we're starting with, like I just said, the sneaky game right here, which is Bulls taking on the Pistons. So my number one play for this game is not even a DFS play. I'm going to scroll in right here, zoom in, and you guys can see game total points right there, 233.5. I am slamming the over right there. That's a VIP play as well. Bulls, Pistons over 233.5, because we just have to look at the sample size that these games have given us, right? How many high-scoring games are the Bulls getting into? Well, would you look at that? The highest scoring team in a Bulls game, right? Putting up 121, 128, 126. This was a lower scoring one, only 113. Another 128, 135, 26, 128. And this was a low scoring game, but why was that? They were playing the Magic, right? So the Bulls, all of these games, right? Very high scoring games, oftentimes going over, well over this line of 233.5, right? And then we got to look at the Pistons too. Pistons are a high-scoring team, right? 137 to 135. That was in overtime, but it was a very high-scoring game in regulation as well. This was a low-scoring one, then a high-scoring one for the Pistons. Pretty decent. 122, 135. Like, if they're putting up 100, even if it's just 115 points, right? And the Bulls go ahead and put up 120, right? We've greened out that play, right? And that is under projecting both of these teams on their average score total, right? So this on the over Bulls Pistons is a great play, right? Now, let's move into the next game up. We're going to Magic and Knicks. Once again, I have no idea why. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it again. I have no idea why. But Jalen Brunson's line is 3 points lower than it should. I'm a firm believer in Jalen Brunson's line should be at 27.5 or 28.5 basically every single night of the NBA season. Unless he takes a super big jump towards the end of the season, unless there's injuries that we need be aware of, his line should be around 27.5 because that's the game that he plays, right? Now, we are getting his line at 24.5, and I have no idea why. I love it. I have no idea why, right? We're going to go ahead and take it on the over, but I have no idea why. And last time I recorded this, literally yesterday's video, it made a little bit of sense to me, right? It made a little bit of sense because maybe the public are seeing that he's missed this in 3 straight games, right? That's what yesterday, his line was at 25.5, right? We took the over, by the way, and we greened out. He got 32 points in that game against Memphis. Now, for whatever reason, his line has dropped even lower to 24.5. I don't care if he misses in this game. I know it's a decent defense in the Magic, right? Magic have been a lot better defense the last few years than they have been this year. They're still a decent defense, and I really don't care. I'm taking Jalen Brunson. 25 plus points for Jalen Brunson sounds like a parlay piece, right? That sounds like a minus 150, a minus 200 play, right? Just Jalen Brunson 25 plus. I'm just going to throw that in my parlay, right? No, that's a straight pick. We're getting that at even odds. That is nuts, the value you're getting there. Absolutely insane play. But we're moving on to the next one, which is Cavs versus the Heat. So the Heat started off super strong and started off red hot, if you will. And they've been just okay recently, right? They're nothing compared to, in my opinion, this Cavs team, right? This Cavs team is on another level. And I mean, I know they just played recently. I know that he came out on top, but I still believe like the Cavs are a better team. I don't know if that's crazy to say. The Heat obviously won this game, right? Obviously a huge game. That happened on Monday, and it was a Wiggins game winner. And I mean, everybody loved that, right? That was a fabulous game. But the Cavs aren't going to lose twice. Cavs are not going to drop another game, right? So, Cleveland Cavaliers right now, they face the Miami Heat away again, but I don't care. We're taking the Cavs on the money line. So, right here, Cavs on the money line is a plus money play, right? Miami spread is 6. The books really don't like the Cavs in this one. But I'm telling you guys, they're not going to miss twice. What happened right here was Norm popped off, right? 44% from 3, 42% from the field. Norm had a great game, and he wasn't even the number one guy, honestly. Because Wiggins, very good player, 62% from the field, right? Jaime hit his over too. Kale Ware hit his over too. Jovic, only player that misses over because he was going crazy on the assists. Those of you guys who saw that game, obviously you saw that last assist, what a play that was. But this is another spot where we're not taking a DFS play. We're not taking a player prop. We're taking Cavs on the money line. This is a plus money play, which means you're getting more than double your money for it, right? So that's a great play to take. I'm not going to say throw the house on it. Obviously, it's a plus money play. Could hit, could miss, but I like it at the odds that they're giving us, right? We're getting better odds than they're giving. Now, Grizzlies versus Celtics. This is a very much a fade game for me, and I don't really need to explain that term anymore, right? It's a fade game. We're not going to go ahead and touch it. But Pelicans, I feel like you can make quite a bit of money betting on the Pelicans, especially betting the under on some specific Pelicans players, right? So this line I've seen at 22.5 on some apps, and that's where I'm going to go ahead and talk about it at. 22.5 on Trey Murphy III's line. We're taking the under. He's playing up against the Blazers. I'm going to say that one more time. He's playing up against the Portland Trailblazers. They are a top 5 defense in basketball. And if you don't know that, you don't know ball. Well, now you do, right? Go tell your friends, Trailblazers are a top 5 defense. Everybody should know this, right? If you know basketball, you know this is true. And the last couple times, weirdly, he's only hit this entire season against the San Antonio Spurs. That's a very weird trend to look at, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about that he's going up against a very tough defense. Look at those stats, 5 versus DPT, number 1 versus defensive shooting zone. So what does that mean? That means that the above the break 3, which is unfortunately for Trey, where he takes 51% of his shots, that exact spot on the court, oh, well, would you look at that? The Portland Trailblazers are actually the best team at defending that spot. Why do you think they're such a good defense? Because they take away these threes. These are very high value shots. Players practice these threes all day long, and they be hitting these threes all day long because above the break threes are just a great systematic good shot, right? So why are the Trailblazers a good defense? I'm going to say that one more time. They're a good defense because they take away the most valuable shot, right? Obviously, most valuable shot is by the rim, but when it comes to the jump shot, these spot up threes are just so valuable, and they take them away. They simply take them away. So, also the Pelicans are not good. I shouldn't have to say that as reasoning, but the Pelicans are a bad basketball team. So betting the under on players that are on a bad team is usually a pretty good strategy. Now, we're going to move into the next one. We're skipping Wizards versus Rockets because who really cares? We're getting into Spurs and Warriors. This is a big one. And right now, Victor Wembanyama, his line is at 24.5. De'Aaron Fox, we have not seen enough out of him yet. 20 points, I feel like he could get that, but we really don't know much about De'Aaron Fox yet, so I wouldn't rush to go ahead and bet that. The play that I'm actually going to be targeting here is not even on the point. It's on the rebounds. It's on the rebounds right here. And let me see if I can go ahead and find it. Where am I at? We're going to JK. So we're going to Jonathan Kuminga on the rebounds. I know it's weird taking a player on the over on the rebounds going up against the Spurs because, of course, they got Wemby, right? But this is one of those spots where you've got to feel really good about JK. He's hit this in he's hit over 4.5 in every single game except for one, and he's just barely missed getting 5 in a lot of those games, right? And there's several games where he's getting 9 or 10, right? So JK's line simply should be higher. This is one of those moments where it's not your favorite play on the board, right? You want to go ahead and take Wemby over on points, Steph over on threes made, or whatever the casual player takes. You don't want to be there, right? You want to go ahead and take where the books are giving us value. And this is the epitome of value. Jonathan Kuminga, 5.5 rebounds, right? That's not a very sexy play, and that's why people aren't going to be betting it. But we're not here to go and take the flashy plays, right? We're not here for that. We're here to make money. Jonathan Kuminga, 5.5 rebounds. Book it. Now, let's get into the next one. Suns at Mavs. And I mean, you got to feel for the Mavs, man. Or at least not the you got to feel for the Mavs fans. I'm going to put it that way. AD, obviously, injured. Cooper Flag is carrying this team. I mean, he's really kind of hashed you at this point. 26 points against Milwaukee. What I'm going to go ahead and do is what I advise all of you guys to do is don't touch the Mavs. Just don't do it. Unless you're taking the Mavs team total on the under, which I personally feel is almost always a good play because they're just simply a bad team and they're an overrated team, right? It's not like the Jazz and the Hornets and the Nets when we know they're a bad team, right? For some reason, a lot of people still don't believe the Mavs are a bad team. The Mavs are a terrible team. Taking their team total on the under is a very profitable strategy, but don't bet their player props. Just don't do it. Don't do it to yourselves. It'll just cause you a lot of pain. Devin Booker, his line has dropped off a cliff. And why is that? Why is that, guys? It's because Devin Booker had a few rough games, right? But I'm going to talk about value one more time. Devin Booker's line should be at 29.5 consistently. What happened? He bumped up over 31.5, 32.5. Then we started taking his unders, right? And we were actually hitting a couple of these 32.5s on the unders, right? He missed right here. He missed right here. Of course, he still had his pop-off games. He is D-Book, 38 against the Warriors. But now he's missed a few games, right? He's gone on the under a couple of these times. And why is that? Well, let's take another look at it. Let's take a quick little peek at it, right? He's shooting still a good amount of times. This one in specific, he didn't take that many shots because he didn't play that many minutes, right? That's a very important thing to look at, right? Here, he didn't make any of his threes. And here, he just simply did not shoot enough, right? This is not as much as Devin Booker usually shoots. But now, he's going up against what I would call a dream matchup, right? The Dallas Mavericks are a terrible basketball team. As long as the Suns don't blow out the Mavs, it sounds crazy to say this. As long as the Suns don't blow out the Mavs, Devin Booker should hit this line. 27.5, it has dropped too low. And people might call me crazy, right? Be like, well, why are you saying if it was at 29, would you still take it? No, I wouldn't take it, right? We're getting that 1.5 worth of value, which to you might not sound like a lot, but over the course of the month, over the course of the year, that adds up, right? It is just a 0.5 point of value, but that's going to add up because the odds of Devin Booker getting, say, 28 or 29 points in this game, and say you took it at 29.5 and I took it at 27.5, and I agree and then you miss, right? That's the kind of odds, that's the kind of margin that you're looking for, and it might sound like a small amount when you're looking at one Wednesday in November. When you're looking at the whole year, it adds up, and that's exactly what profitable bettors look at, right? To look at the whole data over the whole year. Now, we're moving on from that Mavs game because we got a big one coming up, Lakers versus the Thunder. So, Shai, a player that I don't like to touch. Straight up. I just don't want to do it because his line is so high. We're talking about the Mavs. People think they're a good team, they're a bad team. Shai, it's not like that. People think he's going to score 30, and he does. So, they've got the line at 130 or at 31.5, and I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like I know where this is going, right? Because I don't. And you don't gotta know everything on a sports book. You literally have to hit 58% of your wins, 58% of your bets, and you'll be profitable. You don't have to go ahead and pick every single one over, under. Don't be that guy. Just win 58% and you're greened. And that's a lot harder than it sounds, but when you dedicate your life to this kind of thing, it's not actually that difficult because you're putting a lot of time into it, right? And that's exactly what I do every single day with these videos for you guys, giving you the best picks. So, Luka Doncic is where we're going. Who saw this one coming? Basically everybody. But Luka Doncic is exactly where we're going, and we're taking Luka on the over. Why am I taking Luka on the over? Well, the opposing defense is very difficult to play against, right? Very, very difficult to play against. But it's very difficult to play against if you're a big, right? If you're a big, they're swarming, they're double teaming you. They've got a lot of small guards who are strong and, they can rip at the ball. If you're a Luka Doncic and you're playing 30 feet out from the basket, a lot of the time, you really aren't going to get doubled all that much. And it's important to know that the Lakers are at full health. They've got Reeves back. They got Luka back. Aiden's obviously been good this whole time. And then they've got players like Rui who are just good, right? Just solid players who can hit threes, play good defense. If there was ever a time that the Thunder could be beaten for the second time this season, people are I'm starting to hear some rumblings, right? Maybe the Thunder are going to win 74 games this season. That's what people have been saying, right? Because they only dropped one game, and it was to the Trailblazers of all teams, right? Trailblazers, who I told you guys, top 5 defense, right? So, Thunder only dropped one game so far. This could be the next. But no matter what, we're taking Luka on the over, right? We're taking Luka on the over because here, against the Warriors, he lost by 10 points and he still hit the over. Here, crushed the Timberwolves. He hit this line. Beat the Grizzlies. Very close game. Closer than it should have been. But he greened, right? Here, when lost by 20 points against the Hawks, he didn't play all that much towards the end of the game, right? Then he crushed Charlotte for 10 points. Thing is, Luka has not really faced a super solid contender like the OKC Thunder since Game 1 against the Warriors, right? Game 1 that he played. But we're taking Luka on the over on points. That is the last play of the day for me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Let's make some money on NBA Wednesday. I appreciate you. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on PrizePicks. Today I'm going to be giving you all my best plays for Thursday Night Football. We've got another Thursday night game right here. We're going to go ahead and talk about it. This is Patriots versus Jets. It feels like the Thursday night games have not been living up to the expectation recently. That Raiders versus Broncos one was pretty much unwatchable. We still cashed a few unders there. I told you guys take Raiders team total on the under. The line was ridiculously high at 17.5 last week, and they only had 7 points. So that was the play of the day in last week's video. We greened out on Thursday Night Football, so make sure you're locked in to hear about today's play of the day, as well as several other player props we've got going on. But first up, I want you to be signed in on the Discord. So the Discord right here, this is where I'm giving away free picks. Very simple. I got free picks and I got VIP picks, and we have been absolutely killing it. So this is the VIP. That's happened right here. We had the Warriors for some reason, the Warriors, we could get them at plus money. At plus money, or it was really like an even odds play, but we're getting them as a plus spread. For some reason, they were not the favorites. We greened that play out easily. Lakers are still live right now as I'm recording this. And the Knicks, obviously, I'll show you guys what happened in that game. Just not a great beat, right? Not a great day for us. The Knicks did lose the game to the Magic, but one good thing was the player prop I told you guys to take in this exact game was JB over on points. His line was at 24.5, and he actually cashed us out right there for 31 points. So even in the days that we lost the overall team total play on this game, we still ended up cashing our parlay piece with our player prop parlay, right? So it's all about diversifying your assets, and in this case, that's exactly a great reason. We diversified, we went Knicks, and then we also went Jalen Brunson. One of them ended up missing, but one of them ended up cashing. Now, let's move into some plays for Thursday Night Football. And let's just go ahead and talk about this game as a whole. How do I think this game is going to go, right? So, the Jets, obviously, are coming into this game. I think they have 2 wins on the season now. Maybe just 1 win. Yeah, no, 2 wins because they just beat the Browns last week. That win was probably the most fluky win I've ever seen. They got 2 kick return touchdowns. One was off a punt, one was off a kick in the first half, right? So then all they could do for the rest of the game was just run out the ball. And they were playing against the Cleveland Browns, who are a good run defense, which is pretty much why the Browns made it somewhat competitive towards the end. But that was a huge reason why Breece Hall had 83 yards right here against a top rushing defense, was because they were leading in this game when they really shouldn't have been, right? That's not going to happen against the Patriots. The Patriots are going to be leading in this game. And I want to show you guys, this is what I've been talking about for a while. The Patriots offense, what everybody wants to talk about, wow, the Patriots look so good. It's got to be because of Drake May, right? He's taken such a big leap. I believe Drake May has taken that big leap. But this is where the real value is coming in for the Patriots. Number 1, rush yards allowed. Number 1, rush attempts allowed. Number 2, defensive rank per position, and 4th overall in yards per carry allowed. Those are how solid the defense is. They're literally number 1 in rushing yards allowed. They do not allow their opposing running backs to rush for very many yards. And I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because here on the stat sheet, I've pulled up every single other running back that has faced the Patriots this year. And we're just going to go down the line, and I'll tell me when you see a running back who really should have hit this line, right? Ollie Gordon missed. Jalen Warren missed. Gainwell missed. Dowdle cashed. This was back when his line was 23.5 for no reason. Right now it's up in the 90s in some games. But he ended up cashing with 32 yards. Hubbard missed. Davis missed. James Cook. Everybody hyping up James Cook. He dropped under 50 yards in this game, right? Miller missed. Kamara missed. Pollard missed. Spears hit by a couple of yards. Judkins. Everybody was on Judkins by a ton. He only got 20 yards in this game. Bijan only got 46 yards in this game. Algier only got 5 yards in this game. Rashad White under 40 yards in this game, right? Every time a player, a running back, plays the Patriots, more likely than not, they go under, right? The hit rate for players going over this season, 13%. 2 out of 15 running backs has hit the over against the Patriots. And now we've got a team like the Jets. This is such a great play. Breece Hall on the under on rushing yards is a great play for so many reasons. Number 1, he's coming off a great game for no real reason, right? He's coming off a great game and it was a lot of luck, right? So a lot of people are going to take him the over because he just got 83 yards last week, right? Surely he gets at least 60 yards this week. That's a very casual mindset. That's not thinking about how this game is actually going to play out, right? So that's a very good reason to take Breece Hall in the under. Number 2 good reason is because it's the Patriots, literally the worst matchup in all of football for him. And number 3, it's the Jets, right? He plays for the Jets. This is a team that could struggle to get 10 first downs tonight, right? On a bad team like that, A, they're going to be passing the ball more because they're going to be behind, and B, their offensive line is bad, coaching staff is bad. Basically, the whole team is not where it should be, right? The whole team is terrible. Breece Hall should have been traded at the deadline. He wanted to be traded at the deadline, right? But we're not going to be fading Breece Hall in every category. So we don't like him on rushing yards. I don't like him at all on rushing yards. But I am going to tell you to take his over because there is one line of his that has dropped way too low. Just way too low. 15.5 receiving yards for Breece Hall. I think we've forgotten who this man is. This is one of the best pass-catching running backs in all of football, right? In my opinion, if he was on a better team, he would look like Bijan in some sorts, right? Imagine a Saquon Barkley, right, who looked great on a bad team with the Giants, right? Then moved to a great team with the Eagles, won a Super Bowl, right? Am I saying Breece Hall is Saquon on the Giants? No, but that's kind of an analogy I'm trying to draw here, right? Breece Hall is a great player on a bad team. His line is at 15.5 for no sense, right? It makes no sense because look at this. The player, obviously we're looking at where does Breece Hall take most of his snaps when he's catching the ball? Where's most of his targets? In the backfield, obviously. The opposing defense, they're really weak against defending pass-catching running backs, right? They're actually the second worst defense in the NFL, right? When it comes to defending everything in front of them, they're all right. Middle of the pack, not great. But the backfield, you can really target them there, right? And it's not like pass-catching running backs haven't done this exact thing, right? Let's look at which of these running backs we would describe as pass-catching running backs and see, well, maybe they've hit against this team. Ashton Genty, you would not describe him as a pass-catching. He's more of a workhorse. Jalen Warren, he cashed. Kenneth Gainwell's kind of a gadget player. Chuba Hubbard, he cashed. Rico Dowdle, definitely not a pass-catching running back. James Cook, definitely not a pass-catching running back. The best pass-catching running back, in the NFL for quite a few seasons, Alvin Kamara, he had 45 yards against the Patriots, right? So you want to see where the Patriots weak against. They're weak against the running backs catching passes. And he just had 42 yards last game, right? This is a perfect spot for Breece Hall. And like we were saying, if they're going to be playing from behind, which, newsflash, they will. The Patriots will be leading in this game. The Jets are going to have to throw the ball, right? They're going to have to throw the ball because they're going to have to get yards, quick yards, beat the clock. Breece Hall is a perfect person right there. But let's go ahead and talk about Travion Henderson right now. His line is ridiculously high, 79.5. So high that I'm not going to touch that line, right? Because he could have 75 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches, 50 or 30 yards on those catches, right? He could have a great game. He could drop 20 fantasy points for you, and he could still go under this line. 79.5 is so insanely high to me, right? In my opinion, the only way he hits this is if he pops for a long run, which is a 60, or let's just even say a 40-plus yard run, right? If he hits a 40-plus yard run, sure, he's got a great chance of hitting this. But if that's not happening, I don't see where those yards are coming from, right? Yes, he's the number 1 running back in the Patriots, right? Yes, he just had 147 yards against the Bucks, but it's because he had a long run, right? Longest rush here, 27, one time against the Browns, and then he had a 70-yard rush against the Bucks, right? So as long as nothing like that happens, if he didn't have this one singular rush, right, his overall rushing yards for that game would be 70 yards. That's all he would get. He would actually miss this line if he didn't pop off for a 69-yard rush right there, right? So that's exactly what I'm talking about. The line is too high in my opinion. I don't feel super confident about taking it on the under though, but I do like taking him here on the under. 17.5 rushing attempts. They are not going to, after one good game, they're not going to be like, take the ball for 40% of the snaps, right? That's not happening, right? The Patriots are not going to do that to Travion Henderson because they want him to stay as healthy as possible, right? They know he's a good running back. They know he's a really good pass-catching running back. They're not going to give their rookie 18-plus carries when it's not necessary, right? When it's not necessary, when you're already beating the Jets, put in one of the other guys who can grind out a couple yards here or there, you're going to win the game anyways, right? Also, he's not the kind of guy, he's not a bell cow running back, right? Under on 17.5. I love this play a ton. But we're going over to the passing yards section right here. And Justin Fields, man, he is someone that nobody can figure out. I think one of my most fun plays, I'll put it this way, my most fun plays of the day is taking Justin Fields over on passing yards because it's fun to root for passing offenses. I don't know if you could call the Jets an offense with how terribly they play sometimes, but 134 yards is ridiculously low, right? Like any NFL quarterback should be able to get this in one half. And you look at the opposing defense, it's not the greatest defense out there, right? It's not the greatest defense. Other quarterbacks against the Patriots, I mean, no quarterback has gone for lower than Justin Fields' line right now, right? So his line is he going to get 135 yards or higher, right? Every single quarterback, whether they're winning, losing, a rookie, been in the league for 20 years, they've all hit that line against the Jets. They've all gotten over 135. The worst one was Aaron Rodgers, who on a terrible game, right? Super rough game for A-Rod, got 139 yards. He still cashed what the line is for Justin Fields, right? So we're basically just going, is Justin Fields going to have another one of these dud weeks where he drops 60 yards? That's all we're asking. But I want you to look at this, right? I'm going to argue that he's only had one bad game amongst these. He's only had one bad game. And a lot of people are going to hate me for this. But let's go ahead and talk about it, right? Every single time he's hit the over, we're going to call that a good game because we're simply just talking about the betting, the over, the under, right? Not how he plays on the field, just is he going to green out our play for us, right? This game, he got injured. You can't count that one. He only played 29 snaps. That literally doesn't count. This game, he's playing against such a good passing defense, literally the best passing defense in the NFL, right? I would expect a regular quarterback there to maybe get half, 75% of what their usual average line is. So if Justin Fields is averaging around 150, 175, him going for 45 in a dud game, in a close game, right? They kept this game close. Not super surprising to me. I'm not going to count that as a bad game. This game against Carolina was straight up bad. But he only played 28% of this. He only played 28 snaps, right? So you can't really count that one as bad too. I think he played poorly when he was on the field, but he got injured, right? Our play would get refunded if this was the play that we took. So it doesn't matter there either. He hit another huge game against the Bengals. And in this game, there was a good reason why he didn't pass, right? There's a great reason why he didn't pass. It was because he didn't need to. They already had 2 special teams touchdowns within like the first 20 minutes of the game. He literally didn't need to pass. They ran the ball with Breece Hall a ton. So that's exactly why I'm saying Justin Fields, if he's in a bad situation, won't pass. What is a bad situation? 2 of those bad situations, he got injured. One of those bad situations, he was playing a top 3 running passing defense in the Denver Broncos. And another one of those bad situations, his special teams unit scored 2 touchdowns within 20 minutes. All of those are heavy anomalies, right? Getting injured twice in the span of 5 weeks. That's pretty much an anomaly. Playing the number 1 passing defense or a top 3 passing defense, we can predict when that's going to happen. And that's not happening tonight against the Patriots. They're a very locked down rushing defense, which would actually force the Jets to go for the pass a little bit more. They're going to try to establish the run, as a lot of teams say they want to do early on. And it's a good thing to do that. They're not going to be able to. This Patriots rush defense, locked down, right? They're not going to be able to do that. So they're going to be forced to pass. Once they try to look for the pass, what's going to happen is they're actually going to find more holes than they did against the Broncos. He's not going to get injured like he did against the Bills and the Panthers. And they're not going to score 2 special teams touchdowns like they did against the Browns, right? And every single one of those games when that ridiculous anomaly hasn't happened, Justin Fields has not only hit the line of 135, he's popped for this line, right? He's gotten over 215 yards in every single one of these games. That's exactly what I want to be looking at when you're looking at Justin Fields, right? No quarterback has done this bad. Dylan Gabriel, for goodness sake, in a loss by 20 points, still managed to hit the over here, right? The slide is too low, 134.5. Give me that on the over. Now, the free sportsbook play I will be dropping in the Discord, so make sure you're joining up on the Discord. But that's all I got for player props, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's make some money on Thursday. What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new video on PrizePicks. My name is Bam, and we're here with the best plays for NBA Fridays. We got NBA Cup going on every single Friday at this point. since I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. No, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago right now. And there's a ton of spicy matchups on the board. So we're going to look at this. We've got around 9 games to get through in this game. We're going to give at least one play for every single game. But first up, do me a solid, drop a like on this video. And now let's go ahead and talk about the Discord. So the Discord is where I drop free plays, and there's also an open chat in here. That's the first link in my bio. And if you want to get free VIP access, just hit that link and then DM me on Discord right here at Bank. Now, let's move in to just talking about how this Thursday night game went, because it was a very interesting game, but in some ways, in many ways, it went exactly as predicted. So what did I say? I missed on one play right here, and I'll raise my hand and say that. I took Justin Fields on the over at 130 passing yards. I thought that line was so low, and I mean, it's Justin Fields, so that's the reason why the line was low. I thought it was too low, and he missed, right? He had 116. That one was on me. But every single other play, we greened. We took the over on the game total. The over line was set pretty high, actually. I was like very surprised as to why it was this high. So we cashed that one out, and then we went ahead and took this play right here, which was Travion Henderson on the under on rushing yards. His line was at 79.5, which was ridiculously high. So we took the under right there. He greened out for 62, although we had a great game, right? 19 carries, 2 touchdowns, and he even went ahead and had a receiving touchdown too. He was the player of the game for me, and basically for everybody else. Stephon Diggs played amazing, but Travion Henderson was the one who sort of showed up on the stat sheet. I'm sorry if you played against him in fantasy football, but that's neither here nor there. We cashed out on his under rushing yards. Great play right there. And then we just took Patriots on the spread. I know it was a big spread, 11.5, but they greened us out, right? Not too much of a sweat. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about some plays for this game right about now. So, first game we're going to go ahead and talk about is this Orlando versus Brooklyn. We're going to do it right over here. And we've got a bunch to talk about right here because, number one, the Brooklyn Nets are just a terrible team, right? That's the first thing you got to pay attention to when you're looking at the Nets. And this reflects that. I'm going to scroll right here. This is actually, you can't make this up, right? Look at these stats. Opponent rank versus DPT, opponent rank versus DSZ, defensive shooting zone, and then their defensive rating overall, right? 30th in defensive rating, dead last, right? Defensive shooting zone, 28th. DPT, dead last. Paint points allowed, dead last, right? So when it comes to players facing the Brooklyn Nets, they're going to have a great game, right? They're going to have a great game, but this is actually kind of a double-edged sword because the Brooklyn Nets, although their defense is terrible, this year it's so terrible that star players really don't even get to 25 minutes sometimes, right? Sometimes they get 25 minutes and they clock out because there's no need. They're already up by 20 points on the game. I'll show you guys how the Nets have been faring recently, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Right here, played the Knicks, lost by a little under 40. Played the Raptors, kept this one close. Just a 10-point loss right there. Then, another big loss. This was one of their only, I think this was their only win so far of the season. Big loss, kept it close by 5. Loss, right? So they only won one game this season. That was against a very injured Pacers team. Now they're going up against the Magic, who they haven't started as hot as many would hope, but they're still very solid in their own way, right? So this Orlando Magic team is going to eat against the Brooklyn Nets. But one play that I love is the game total on the under. So 225.5 is a low total, but we're going here to a game with two teams that really aren't super talented at scoring, right? We don't even talk about how the Brooklyn Nets can't score because they can't really do anything. But the Orlando Magic are one of those teams that they'd rather stop you from scoring than go ahead and score themselves. And what does that mean? They prefer a defensive game of basketball, right? They prefer a physical game of basketball. They really slow down the clock, right? They're not just firing up threes with 20 seconds still on the shot clock. That's the kind of team that's going to get into high-scoring games. Orlando Magic is not that kind of team, right? So I like the under right here a ton. And, yeah, we're going to stay away from player props because, like I said, you could take the over because they got a great matchup in Brooklyn. But then you got to realize, wait a minute, they might not even play that much, right? Well, it's not really worth it right there. But let's go ahead and talk about this Heat versus Knicks game now. And one player that I think is going to step up a lot in Jalen Brunson's absence for this specific game is Mikal Bridges, right? It is so clear, right, that so right now Jalen Brunson's out. We're going to go with Jalen Brunson out, right? And look at the whole season, last season, right? It is so clear that when Mikal Bridges plays for the Knicks and Jalen Brunson is not in, right? This is just it's just a money play, right? It's just a money play to take these over, right? If you look at this, I've basically just done all the stats for you. I'm pulling up all the games last season when Mikal Bridges was in and Jalen Brunson was not in, right? And what happens in those games? Mikal usually pops off. Only 6 of these games he went under in. Every other game he created, right? And it's not like he's just barely getting over the line. Look at these games. 27, 33, 28, 27, 26, 28, 20 points, right? And now his line is sitting at 17.5. Yes, of course, the line has risen because Jalen Brunson is out. But it's just such a clear difference, right? Look at this. If we say Jalen Brunson is in, he hits this line at 38% of the time. Then when Jalen Brunson is out, he's hitting the line at 62% of the time. So tonight Jalen Brunson is out. We're taking Mikal Bridges to pop off. He's only hit this at 36% of the time. As you guys can tell, we're taking trends from last season and applying them to this season because it's very similar. This Knicks team is one of those teams that didn't change all that much over this offseason, right? So we can apply these same principles, apply these same trends. Mikal Bridges is one of our players for today. Now, we're going into the Sixers and the Pistons. This one, if you told me, I would say a month ago, 2 months ago, oh, do you really want to watch Sixers versus Pistons? I'd probably say yes because it was the basketball offseason. But if it wasn't for that, I would be like, nah, that game does not sound interesting. And so would every other NBA fan. But it's actually super interesting. The Pacers, or not the Pacers, the Pistons and the Sixers are two of the most fun teams right now, right? Pistons are 5.5 point favorites in this one. I think that could go either way, honestly, because there's just so many question marks on this team, right? Obviously, Embiid is out, and right now Edge Scrub is questionable. I think he's still going to play in this one, but Tyrese Maxey's the X factor, right? His line is at 30 points. He's going to over under 30 points. I don't know, but I really like Tyrese Maxey right here on the assist. So if you bump this line down to 6.5, which many apps are allowing it at, you'll see that he's only missed this in 2 games this season, right? He's only missed this in 2 games. Playing the Celtics, he missed by 1. Then he playing the Bulls in the middle of the season, he managed to miss that line, right? But last time he played the Pistons, which was just literally like last week, he greened out this play. 7 assists, 11 potential assists. And he's usually getting around that line. Sometimes he's even popping off for 18 potential assists like this one against the Cavs, right? So, Embiid is out in this game. Been out for a little bit now. But this one, where Tyrese Maxey is going to have the ball in his hands for basically all 40 minutes that he's in on the court, right? He's playing a ridiculous amount of minutes. We've got to go ahead and talk about this. 38 minutes, 43 minutes, 36 minutes, 34 minutes. Last time I played the Pistons, it was 38 minutes and I lost by 3. I think this one's going to be a great game for Maxey. I like him a lot on the assists specifically, but if you want to get a little bit of action there with his points, take him on points plus assists. Now, moving on to the next one, we got Kings going up against the Wolves. So the Kings are a terrible defense. Nobody needs to be reminded of that, I hope, because just look at these numbers, right? The Kings on the defensive end. I'll pull up the graph for y'all. Defensive rating right here. So every time he plays, this blue line goes up. It means they're playing a very bad defense, right? So bad defense is here. Would you look at that? What is the other team where the line went up a ton? It was the Kings last time, right? Last time he played the Kings. So this time Ant got 26 points in this one, but it was in a win by 27, right? So that's what I'm talking about. When you're going up against super bad defenses, the Nets, the Kings, it's going to be a great game, right? You're gonna find scoring so easy as a star player. Scoring is going to be the lightest thing in the world, but you might not play your expected amount of minutes, and that's kind of a big problem for taking a player prop. So yeah, player props, a little bit rough to take right there. But one place where I think we could absolutely hammer is the spread. So Minnesota right here, our spread is at 12.5, and I think we're taking them to cover that, right? I genuinely think we are, because this Kings team is just so easy to bet against, right? It's ridiculous how easy this team is to bet against. And if you look at last time they played, they won by 27 points, right? Here, literally every other team, they're playing them kind of close, except for this game against the Jazz and this game against the Kings. But the Kings are just such a bad defense, it makes no sense, right? They can't really, they don't have much on offense, honestly. If you look at their players, it's bleak, right? It should be great. You just hear these names: Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis. You hear that and you think, wow, this has got to be a great team. But then you look at it and you go, what's going on right now, right? Sabonis started on fire. Then he kind of dropped off, right? So you got to bet with how the teams are playing right now. And right now the Wolves are way stronger than the Kings. So we're taking the Wolves. Another game that I want to watch just because I really like watching Lakers basketball right now, but I hate that they're playing the Pelicans because the Pelicans are not interesting at all as a team. We're going to go ahead and talk about this one. Opposing team defensive rating. Now the Pelicans have notoriously, last few years, had a decent defense for being such a mid team, right? Because you got players like Trey Murphy, who are pretty solid. Herb Jones, notably one of the best defenders out there in the NBA. That's what we've been saying the last few years. Now it seems like that's all come crashing down for the Pelicans, right? They're not a good defense. They are the 28th ranked team in defensive rating, which basically means they're the third best matchup out there, right? They're not up there with the Nets, but they're pretty close. So this is going to be the easiest defense that Luka Doncic has faced, and I want you guys to look at this blue line, right? Why am I pulling up this blue line? Because I'm showing how does Luka perform relative to the opposing team's defensive rating, right? So he starts off here against the Warriors, who have a very middle-of-the-road defense. If the blue line is high, that means it's an easy defense. If the blue line is low, that means it's a very staunch defense, right? Start off pretty mid, still popped up for 30 points. Then he got an even easier defense in the Wolves, and he greened out 49 points. Then he had a very easy defense in the Grizzlies, also hit his over on another 40-point game. Then a steep drop-off. He played a pretty tough defense in the Miami Heat, and then he went under for his first time in the season. Then he had a even tougher defense in the Spurs, but because this game was super close and he played 42 minutes in this one and had 17 free throws, those were the main reasons why he went over, right? But then look at this. Really tough defense in the Hawks. They are the number one defense right here. It says number one defensive rating. So I wouldn't take them over the Thunder, but according to the stats, they're right up there with the Thunder, Trailblazers, all these great teams, right? And he misses, right? Misses against a tough defense. Who would have thought? Then he plays the Hornets, pretty bad defense. He greens back to normal. Then he plays the Thunder, very good defense. They're defensive rating number 2. So against defensive rating number 1 and defensive rating number 2, those were the only games in the last little bit that he's gone on, right? And that makes sense. It's a tough defense. But you know what it is tonight? Anything but. It's not a tough defense. You just got a nice, easy ride against the Pelicans, who are the third worst defense in basketballs, right? So we're following the trends. Luka is going to go back to having a great game. And Luka's one of those players where people will say that players just care about the win. No, they care about the stats too. They care about filling up the stat sheet. They care about being on the MVP race. They care about all this stuff. And a Friday night NBA Cup game against the Pelicans is the perfect time for you to assert your dominance. And really with little to no effort, it seems like Luka is putting into this, right? I mean, that's a compliment. It looks like it's effortless when he does it. That's what I'm trying to say. He can easily cruise to a win. He can cruise to an easy 35-plus point game. You wouldn't say that for many other players, but Luka is just that guy, right? Now, we're moving into the next one. Right down here, Blazers versus Rockets. So two great defenses in this one. Two great defenses. Opponent defensive rating, Blazers right up there with the top, especially against the DPT. So spot-up shooters like Kevin Durant, they are not a good matchup for them, right? So we'll look at this. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It literally just shows you when is he playing against a defense that is staunch against a specific DPT, right? A specific player type, right? When you look at when is this blue line at the bottom? Against the Mavs and against the Trailblazers. And he went well under there. Under, right? Now he's going up against the Trailblazers. We're fading KD on this specific play. Now this is weird to think, right? Because the Rockets surprisingly have one of the best offenses in the NBA. And why is it surprising? Because it's just not their identity, right? You think of their identity, you don't think of scoring, you think of defense, you think of rebounding, right? But it makes quite a bit of sense when you think that they just brought in one of the best scorers of all time in Kevin Durant, right? This is not his day. This is not his day. He's playing up against the Trailblazers, who are a great defense. They hound you 94 feet of the court. And it's just not a good matchup for his specific player type, right? I think Şengün could pop off. I think Amen Thompson could do well. Smith, Eason, Shepard, they could do well. But Kevin Durant is the one player that the Trailblazers know we can clamp down on a player that plays exactly like this, right? So that's what they're going to do against KD in this one. Now, Hornets versus Bucks. This is a fade game for me because Giannis is going in with a half injury. We don't know if he's injured. We don't know if he's going to sit. We don't know if he's going to play. And Hornets versus Bucks. This is a key fade game, right? I'm just going to drop some betting insight for you. When two teams in the NBA play a back-to-back, in the NBA or any sport, right? Usually happens in the NBA. Often happens in baseball, so I wouldn't really go that far because it happens so often. But let's just talk about the NBA. When the two teams have a back-to-back game like this, Bucks play Hornets on Wednesday, Bucks play Hornets on Friday, this is exactly where you fade, right? You fade the heck out of this game. What does that mean? You just don't take any points, right? You want to keep your money far away from this because a lot of the public, the stupid public, are going to think, well, whatever happened in this game, it's got to happen in this game, right? That's just like no variables have changed. Why would anything change, right? That's a stupid way of thinking, obviously. Anybody who knows sports, anybody who knows statistics would tell you you're an idiot for saying that, right? But at the same time, it kind of feels like maybe there are something, right? So this is one of those games where A, Giannis is out, right? Potentially out, potentially in. We don't know, right? I'm recording this at 2 a.m. on Thursday night, right? B, it's a prime fade game because of the back-to-back rule, right? This is a personal rule that I have, and it's served me well, very well so far, right? You likely, more often than not, lose money betting on the second half of a back-to-back because your thinking is so, like a huge portion of the decision-making that's going into this play has to do with this one game, right? That's not sample size. That's not statistics. That's not using your knowledge and your brain to the fullest extent. So we're going to stay away from this game. It's also Hornets versus Bucks. Really anything could happen, right? Both of these teams are super unpredictable. But one game that's not unpredictable is Clippers versus Mavs because we are taking the under in this game. Whoa, who would have thought? Clippers versus Mavs. These teams can't score to save their lives. Anthony Davis is questionable for this game. Cooper Flag is good, but you don't know if he's going to score 12 or score double that, right? You really just don't know. And you go to the Clippers side of the ball, Harden's the same way, right? Sometimes he cares, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he puts up 35 against a tough defense. Sometimes he is not at all, on the court, it feels like, right? This is one of those games we're taking the under. We're taking the under, even if the line's low, 219, I'm taking it. Now, let's talk about the game of the night, right? Warriors versus Spurs, and there's a lot to talk about in this one. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and give a play for this one, even though, like I was just saying, just recently faced off, right? Just recently faced off on Wednesday. We are going to go into this with an exercise not talking about this last game. Let's not talk about what happened in the last game. And let's just focus on the entire season as a whole and make our prediction for this one. So, De'Aaron Fox as a whole has had a couple games, but not a big enough sample size. We're going to stay away from him. Steph Castle is the player we are going to be targeting. Steph Castle is the player we're going to be targeting because Victor Wembanyama, he goes over when teams let him, pretty much, and he goes under when teams double the heck out of him, right? When teams literally are just like, okay, we got one game plan, stop Wemby. Then he goes under, right? Obviously, anybody would. But Steph Castle has been way more consistent, right? I want you guys to see, how do these green bars change when it comes to Castle, when it comes to Wemby, right? When it comes to Castle, when it comes to Wemby. So Wemby's bars that are red are basically Castle's bars that are green. And Wemby's bars that are green are more often than not, Castle's bars that are green or red, right? So Castle is the more consistent player of these guys. His line at 17.5 is a little high. I would bump this down, not that far, because you're not going to get any money. But take him at 15 plus points, right? This is a great matchup right here. And the last time he missed against this was when he was playing the Nets, right? Or the first time he missed against he was playing against Nets. Nets are a terrible defense, but we know how Wemby was playing in those first few games. We know how Castle was playing in those first few games. It was a very Wemby-dominated system, right? Then he played him against the Rockets and just missed this one by one. So I really love this as a parlay piece. Add it into your parlays. It might be minus 200, minus 250. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't checked it on my own. Might even be better than that. But yeah, those are all my plays for NBA Friday. Drop a like, drop a comment if you appreciated it, and I'll see you guys in the next one once we cash. Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on PrizePicks. In this video, I'm giving you all my best plays for college football Saturday, and we've got a huge slate. So make sure you guys are locked in. First up, do me a solid, drop a like on this video, and also drop a comment. Tell me which game you're most excited to watch, because I know me personally for sure, It is the Longhorns facing against the Bulldogs. I think that's going to be an awesome game because it's a 5 versus a 10, right? And it's Texas, Georgia. Like, really, what else could you ask for, right? But we're going to hop over to CFB right here. And first up, before I get into all this, I want to make sure I'm promoting the Discord. The Discord is where I drop my free plays, and I got a good community up in there as well. So open chat right here is a bunch of people active talking about fantasy football, talking about sports. Basically, just a good, solid group of people talking about what we all love the most in this world, which is sports. Such a fun thing to literally just passing time on Saturday. And it's even better because you're not just passing time like everybody else is, you're passing time while making money. Now, let's get into the top plays of the day. And we're going to start off with that exact game that I just talked about, which is Texas at Georgia. And we're going to Ryan Wingo right here, who is on the road in this one. And I want to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. His line is very high right here at 12.5 fantasy because of the last couple games that he's had, right? He's had a couple games in his last 5 games, right? In his last 6 games. He's gone over this in 2 of them. But in his last 19 games, he's gone under in 15 of them, right? So this is a perfect case of looking at a small sample size versus looking at a bigger sample size, right? In statistics, with data, you always want to look at a bigger sample size because it's going to get you the best data, right? It's going to get you the best trends more accurately than just looking at literally the last 2 weeks. Always gone over in both of those weeks. He's got to go over here, right? Both of these games went for over 60 points. This one went for over 80 points, right? So there is a clear reason why he went over in these games because he was scoring, right? Because he was scoring. And if we look at these last couple, right, where he went only under 30 points scored in that game, under 30 points scored in this game, right? And then the next couple games where he goes over, pops off 50 points. And this one, obviously, that doesn't count. 55-0. Literally anybody could put up that numbers on Sam Houston. And that's not at all what they're going to get in this game against Georgia, right? So don't have to worry about getting another 28.5 fantasy point performance right there from Ryan Wingo. I expect him to go under here. Very simple because it's just not a great matchup for him, right? Like the Georgia passing defense is, they're not locked down. They're solid, right? They're not locked down. But this is one of those spots where if it was at 10.5, I would feel okay about it, right? Taking it over, taking it under. But at 12.5, it's too high for me, right? He could still have a great game, get 5 catches, 70 yards, and miss, right? Once I put it that way, it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense why we're taking the under on fantasy points. Now, we're going to move into the next play. There's a ton of plays right here, but let's go ahead and talk about this next one. We're sticking with the wide receivers, and this time we're taking one of them on the over. It's Jeremiah Smith to find the end zone. So they are hosting UCLA in this one. OSU hasn't lost the game. OSU looks super strong. And one of those players that looks, very strong as well is Jeremiah Smith. I want to show you his touchdown numbers. 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 0 touchdowns, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And now his line is at 1. It's definitely not a even money play. Looks like it's a little bit of a goblin right here. I would take it there too, right? If you're on PrizePicks, take it as a goblin. If you're anywhere else, take it as a parlay piece, right? So what is a parlay piece? Basically, instead of taking one straight play that's around minus 110 or plus 110 in that range, you're taking one single play that's a minus 250, but around a minus 250 or a minus 150, and you're slotting that into a parlay that you're making, right? So that's exactly what you need to do in order to make a parlay piece play. This is a perfect parlay piece, right? So that's what I'm going to give you on this channel. It's not just only straight picks. It's not just only player prop plays, right? Got a little bit of parlay piece action right here, as well as some great straight picks on even odds. Now we're going to stick with that same team, and we're taking Julian Sain on the under, actually. So the reason we're taking him on the under, because it's passing attempts, and they're not going to pass the ball very much. I know they are significantly better in their passing game than their running game, right? Nobody's doubting that, right? But UCLA is not going to test them at home. It's just not going to happen, right? UCLA is not going to test them at all. So this game could be over in the first half. And what does that mean? They could just run away with it. I could expect Julian Sain getting benched in the fourth quarter, even if he doesn't. Probably just going to be handing the ball off, letting the clock roll down. So he could have a great game right here. Go for 250 yards, but only throw the ball 22 times because he really didn't need to do all that much, right? That's exactly what I'm projecting. And if we look at the stats, they show the exact same story, right? The time that he actually went over in this game was against Ohio, and this is a weird one. You're going to look at this and go, well, that wasn't a close game, right? It was 9-37. But if you zoom in to what actually happened in this game, the first half was very close, right? It was very close. OSU actually needed to lock in towards the back end of the game and win, pretty much towards the end, right? But if you look at this, not super close game. I mean, the first quarter, I guess, was close, but it really wasn't that close. He went under. Not close at all. He went under. Not close at all. He went under. And close, but they had that game in the bag the whole week through, right? So this is just when Sain is at home in these games. Exactly how does he play, right? He literally plays very safe, very simple, not throwing the ball all that much, right? At least his passing attempts at 28 or over, I don't like it. 27.5, I'm taking the under. Now, moving to the next play, we're taking Malachi Toney, right? So right here, we want Malachi Toney on the receiving yards, and we want Malachi Toney on the over on receiving yards. So I know he had a massive dud week. I'll show you the last 10, if I can. Just the whole season, I suppose. I guess he hasn't played 10 games this season. But these are the 9 games that he's played so far. He's gotten over in 6 out of 9 of these games. And you might say, well, he's been having a couple rough weeks recently, right? Against Syracuse, he only had 12 receiving yards against a terrible passing defense. Well, they really didn't need to pass the ball that much, right? This was a game where they needed to pass. This was a game where they really didn't, right? They really didn't need to pass the ball, so he didn't go over. He still got 52 yards, very good in his own right. This was a close game. They actually lost this one, and he popped off for over 130 in his best game of the season. Another close game, he goes over. Close game, close game, close game. He's going over in close games, right? Now he's going up against NC State. And NC State are a really weird team, right? They just beat Georgia Tech, and they look solid. But then you look back at their schedule and you realize, well, they lost to Pitt, right? They lost to Virginia Tech. And yeah, they beat Virginia, who are a very solid team, or a ranked team. Yeah, they beat Georgia Tech, who are a ranked team. But they also have terrible losses on their schedule too, right? You should not be losing to Virginia Tech as any type of contender, right? So against Miami, Miami's at home in this one. Obviously, Miami are the favorites. I do think they're going to win this game. But one thing that I hope NC State does, and I think they have a very great chance of doing, is keeping the game close, right? As long as they keep the game close, they're going to pass the ball quite a bit. That's the way NC State plays, period, end of story. Miami's going to have to pass the ball quite a bit too, right? I like Fletcher on the rushing yards too if you want to go that angle. But I think Miami's not going to just be able to run this game out, right? They're going to have to pass the ball. NC State on the passing defense has looked a little ropes. So that's exactly why I expect Toney to just cook them. His yards after catch are, I don't want to say the best in all of college football, but they're easily top 5. If you haven't watched it, check out Malachi Toney tape. Now, moving on, we're sticking in the same game here, and we're going to exactly what I was just talking about, NC State's passing yards. So CJ Bailey, his line is at 224.5. I think this is ridiculously low. Just straight up, the only time he didn't hit this game was when he was on the road facing Notre Dame, and this was a weird game because they were actually keeping it close for the first half. And then what happened? NC State started to run the ball. They said, well, if we're keeping it close, let's try to keep the score right here where it is. And maybe we could pop a touchdown late and then win the game that way. That didn't work, right? They stopped passing the ball, and they lost their foothold in the game, and it got out of hand really fast. But in all these other games, 340 yards against Georgia Tech, 48 points. That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake at all. 34 points against Pitt, he went over. 56 points against Campbell, yeah, anybody's going to go over there. 21 points against Virginia Tech in a loss, he goes over. 45 points to 33 points here, massive scoring game. He went over there too, right? So CJ Bailey, his peak is 350 plus yards, right? And his low, his bottom, his trough is around 220 to 230, 250 yards, right? So this line at 224.5 is way too low. It's way under projecting where he usually plays at, what he can hit in this game, right? So CJ Bailey, we like him on the over. Now, next play we're going to is Ty Simpson. So this is another big game. I'm just going to scroll through right here and show you guys the big games that I'm talking about. The big games this week are easily, I want to consider this a big game, but I really don't think, those teams just play so differently. That might actually be interesting to watch, but neither of those teams were really all that great, to be fair. This is a big game, 4 versus 11. This is a huge game, 10 versus 5. And this could be a fun one, BYU versus TCU, but I really don't think it'll be that big of a game. let's stick to the main ones, and we're going over to Alabama right now. And we're taking Ty Simpson, taking him on the rushing yards, right? So he said this in 6 out of his last 7 games. And it's one of those plays where you really just like Simpson to, let me see if I can get my mouse back in this one. You really just like Simpson because he's only missed this one time, and that was against Vanderbilt, right? Literally only missed this one time. Vanderbilt is the toughest defense that he's played so far when it comes to rushing. And the second toughest defense was Missouri, right? He actually hit that one too, just barely, right? So this now, defense that he plays, really not all that tough, right? This Oklahoma defense is good, but against rushing quarterbacks, it's one of those things that you can't really quantify as a defense, right? You could look at, well, how much rushing yards did they allow to quarterbacks previously, but every quarterback, when it comes to rushing, plays very differently, right? Some of them are intending to rush. Some of them just kind of do it if they have to. Some of them don't even want to at all. They'd rather throw the ball away than rush for a few yards, right? Ty Simpson's not one of those guys. He's the guy that if there's green grass in front of him, he's going to go pick it up. And all we need is for there to be 7 positive yards of grass in front of him for him to pick up by the end of these 60 minutes, right? So that's exactly what we're taking right here. And 6.5 yards, way too easy, right? But if you want another parlay piece, like I was saying, I was going to say with parlay piece, but because I thought the odds would be way lower on this, I thought this would be minus 150, but we're actually getting it at minus 115. This is now officially another video play. Go ahead and take Ty Simpson on the over on not just rushing yards, but on passing touchdowns too. 1.5 passing touchdowns is this a joke? Like, this is egregiously low to get at minus 115. This is really good value because if you look at all these games, right, only time he didn't hit was when they only scored 20 points in that game against LSU. Ever thought it was going to be a high scoring game? Didn't happen. 20 points, right? That was a very boring game, honestly. 29 points, and he hits this line. 37 points, he hits this line. 27 points, he hits this line. 30 points, he hits the line, right? You see the exact trend that I'm talking about right here. Now, all we need is that for this game against Oklahoma, he's also at home, which would lend more to passing touchdowns, right? All we need is that this game against Oklahoma, he and the team scores 21 points or higher. Because if that happens, there's a very good chance that at least a couple of those touchdowns are passing touchdowns, right? Ty Simpson on passing touchdowns. And now let's move into the next play of the day. We're sticking in the same game. We're taking Isaiah Sain. I think that's how you say the name because this name has been tripping up so many people. I'm going to go with Sain. But this kid is so broken, right? This kid is absolutely nuts. He's only missed in one game so far, and that's against Texas on the road where he missed by 5 yards. That is nuts. The amount of consistency this man has, it's insane, right? And the only worry that you could be having here, literally the only worry, is because the matchup is tough, right? The matchup is a pretty tough one. If we look at the, here we go. If we look at the receiving yards rank, like I'll show you guys right here. If we look at the receiving yards rank, they're the 10th ranked, right? So they're top 10 receiving defense. Their secondary is very solid. But it's one of those moments where Oklahoma really doesn't have that many other very qualified places to go with the ball, right? He's going to be able to get enough targets for him to go over, even if he has a bad game, right? So what does that mean? A good game for him to hit 65 yards would be, 5 catches, 65 yards, maybe a long of 25, right? That's a good game. I think in this game, he could have 10 targets, 8 catches, and just barely grind out to that 70 or 80 yard mark, right? So he's not hitting his yards per catch as high as he wants it to be, unless he pops off for, a 50-yard bomb, which could happen, right? He's not getting the yards per catch up, but he's getting to the receiving yards line because they're targeting him again and again and again, right? He's going to get targets, he's going to get yards out of the catch. I expect him to get a couple of screen passes here, which is just always good for easy yards. And he's hitting 6 out of the last 7 games with an average of 90 receiving yards over that span. This is ridiculous, right? We're taking him on the over at 64.5. But that's all I got for the video. I appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. Drop a like, drop a comment, and drop a subscribe because I post every single day. I'll see you in the next one once we cash. Yo, what's up, guys? What's your brand new video on Prize Picks? Today I'm giving you all my best plays for NFL Sunday, excuse me. We got some NBA plays in there, but we're going to be mainly focusing on the NFL. Although, like I said, we do have a couple NBA plays that we're going to be going towards the end. Now, do me a solid. First up, drop a like on this video. Now let's move into the Discord Plus winnables. So I got some feedback from you guys, and it seems like the winnable was still a great system, but I also do appreciate what the Discord does in helping me chat with you guys basically about the plays, and we can sweat them out like that, right? So we got the Winnable. This is where everybody needs to sign up. It is completely free to sign up, by the way, winnable.com/bam. That's the first link in the description of this video. You scroll down and you click subscribe to the free plan, right? So you're going to get access to the Discord, which is where we just chat about, bets, good bets, bad bets. I'll put all my videos in there. I got the VIP pick service in there as well. It's just a great time. We also talk about fantasy football. So you got the Discord option there, and there's also a ton of VIP plays here as well. So we just had a huge day in the VIP. I had to go ahead and recap it in this video. This was the pick ticket that I sent out, and we cashed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays, and we only missed one play. USC won by 5 points, and if they won by 6 points, we would be here recapping a 6-0 clean sweep. So that's how insane the day was, and I went ahead and gave you guys a VIP sale. So I'm giving you 40% off the week pass to the VIP, but only dropped 5 slots. So if you're watching this early enough, you might be able to go ahead and claim yourself a spot for the entire week of VIP. And that means you're not just getting this Sunday, Monday, the whole week of NBA mostly, and then next Saturday as well is what you're getting, because college football Saturday is always a big day. Just look at what we did here. Absolutely nuts. Now, let's move into the first play for today. And like I said, we're talking about the NFL first. We're going to go ahead and skip right past this Commanders-Dolphins game, because I know a lot of you guys are probably watching this after that's already kicked off. And honestly, there's nothing too great to look for there. But going into this next one, I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. So what's happened is I took Trevor Lawrence on the under. I said that was my play of the week last week, right? Take Trevor Lawrence on the under. His line was around 200 passing yards, and we smacked, right? He only got 158 against what I would consider the best, if not a top 3 passing defense in the NFL, right? The Houston Texans are right up there with the best of the best. Now he's going up against the Chargers, who, if I show you guys the stats, they're pretty tough as well. Here we go. They're pretty tough as well. Top 5 in passing yards allowed, top 10 in passing attempts allowed. But this is a much closer game, right? This one's 3-point spread, 43-point total. I expect them, the Jaguars to actually be very much in this game. I expect them to throw the ball quite a bit. So if we look at the opposing defense, they're pretty solid along the middle of the field. But where the weakness is towards the outside, right? So the wide out spots, I think, is where the Jaguars offense could actually capitalize quite a bit. But now we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about this one, because I got 3 plays in this Bucks versus Bills game, because it's just an awesome game, right? This one's actually must-see TV. I think Bucks versus Bills might be the game of the week. Everybody's pointing to Seahawks Rams, which is awesome. Chiefs Broncos, Lions Eagles. But I think Bucks versus Bills actually might be sneakily more fun than all of them. So we got Josh Allen right here. His line is for some reason sitting at 216.5. And if you haven't figured it out yet, that's going to be our first play, is Josh Allen over on yards. So the reason is we're taking Josh Allen over on yards is, this is just such a peculiar sheet that Josh Allen has, given us to look at. Against terrible teams, Jets, Dolphins, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, he's missed, right? And then against good teams, Ravens, Patriots, Chiefs, Dolphins, he actually was hitting, even though the Dolphins are not a good team. He hit against the good teams, right? So it's a very simple trend right here. When Josh Allen doesn't hit the line, it's usually because he's playing a bad team, and they just let James Cook do all the work, right? That's what happened against the Panthers when he only got 163 yards. What happened against the Jets was even worse. They were just winning so much that they just subbed him out, right? So that's exactly what they do against bad teams, right? This Bucks rushing defense is not exactly a bad team, right? So I expect James Cook to still have a great game. If you have him in fantasy, obviously you should still start him, right? But Josh Allen here on the passing yards, I think could be a sneaky good spot, because their opposing defense, 27th against the wideout slot. So that means that they're bottom 5 pass defense to that particular zone of the field. And we know Josh Allen, he can make plays anywhere on the field, right? So you got to look at this plays, and then you got to look at the line one more time and go 216.5. We like it there on the over. But next up, we're going over to the rushing yards category, and I'm actually just going to skim on right by the the Bills running backs, and we're going to Sean Tucker right here. So if we see what's been happening is Rachaad White's kind of been flatlining here, 38, 35, 38 in his last few games. And Sean Tucker has been the one picking up the slack, right? So his line is at 41.5. He only had 9 rush attempts in this last game, and then in this game he had 12 rush attempts, right? And I expect against the Bills, I mean, it's going to be a close game. They're going to be using their pass and their rush. I don't think the Bucks are necessarily going to be behind in this game. If we look at the spread right now, the Bucks are 5.5 point underdogs, and the total is at 46.5, right? And if we look at the opposing defense, rushing yards allowed, they're actually nearly dead last, right? They're bottom 3 in rushing yards allowed is the Buffalo Bills, right? So Bills have a good defense. We've known this for a while, but at this point, this late in the season, it seems like they're kind of relying on just the name of having a good defense, if that makes any sense, to them actually producing well, right? You look at these players and you look at which of these players are actually starters, right? Devon Achane didn't just hit his over; he popped for 170 yards. Rico Dowdle, he hit his over. We keep scrolling down. If it'll let me. We keep scrolling down. Bijan smacked his over 170. Gibson hit his over. And then Henderson barely missed his over. Kamara hit his over. Miller went way over his line, right? And then we're going way too far back now, but HN also hit, and then Brees Hall missed in one of those opening games, right? So that's what we're saying. The Bills' rushing defense, actually pretty, attackable. I think the Bucks could go after them here, especially when they have 2 running backs. They can always get fresh legs out on the field. So Sean Tucker's my guy. Now, the next play we're going to talk about is not even a player prop at all. It is just the game total on the over. 46.5 is too low for this game. It's just too low because these offenses are way better than these defenses. That's just plain and simple, right? Josh Allen as a player is basically better than any other defense in football. And when you look at the Bucks defense, it's not a top 10 defense, I would say. It's not a top 10 defense. Definitely not a top 5 defense, right? So Josh Allen can dissect that. And then you look at the Bills defense, and it's pretty ropes, right? Got a couple injuries, of course, but their rushing defense is very weak. And their passing defense, I mean, Baker Mayfield seems like he could really pass against any defense right now. He just played very well against the Patriots, even though they ended up losing that game, right? So we like the game total on the over. We like Sean Tucker. We like Josh Allen. Now, Bears versus Vikings. This one I've got a very simple play. We're going over to the receptions category right here. And we're just going to go ahead and take Justin Jefferson. So Justin Jefferson here on the receptions. I know he missed this last game against the Ravens. I know he's missed this in most of the games this season. This one's just not. This one's a no-brainer for me, right? The Bears' defense is really not all that good. If you look at the completion percentage allowed, this is a perfect stat actually to bring up in this moment. So receptions allowed is 17. Targets allowed is 14. Very middle of the road. Completions allowed, 29. So that means they are bottom 4 in completion percentage allowed, right? So not amount of completions, but how good, our quarterbacks are just finding accurate throws against the Chicago Bears. They're pretty damn good, right? Passing yards allowed, bottom 10. Rec yards allowed, bottom 10, right? This is a perfect spot for Justin Jefferson to just eat against a bad defense. We like him here on the over on receptions. Now, going back over to passing yards, and I'm going to talk about this next game. I really shouldn't have to say much here. We're taking Jameis Winston on the over at 220 passing yards. Like, what are we doing? Have we forgotten how Jameis Winston plays football? I don't know. I have no idea why. Because this man is going to sling the ball no matter what, right? Literally does not matter. He's gonna send that. He's gonna send the ball. It's just gonna 300 yards, 230, 395, 219, 497 against Denver in Mile High Stadium. Let me say that one more time. 497 yards against the Broncos. And this was obviously last year, but come on. It's the same player. We know Jameis Winston, how he plays. He likes to throw the ball. Plain and simple. This is a good matchup against them. Their slot defense is pretty good, but their inline defense is kind of mid. Their wide defense is middle of the road. It's not like the Packers are, all that solid. When it comes to the secondary, they're good. They're not the best in the league. And where they are, I would say, up there with the best in the league is the pass rush, right? You got Micah Parsons, you got Sean Gary, right? There's so many more names to mention, right? They're very good in that aspect, which is honestly even more reason why Jameis Winston's going to have to get the ball out early, right? There's no way they're going to look at a pass rush like that and go, let's lean on Devin Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. That's not the way the Giants are going to play this game, right? So Jameis Winston on the over on passing yards is my next play. We're skipping Texans versus Titans. We're skipping Panthers Falcons. We're skipping Bengals Steelers. We're skipping Niners Cardinals because we got big games to get to. Not like I don't like plays for those games. I like a lot of plays for those games actually, and I dropped those in the VIP already. Now, Seahawks and Rams. I think that the unders have a lot of value here, not because I want to take the unders, but just because the public is all over this game, right? The public is all over this game because it's going to be a fun one, right? It's going to be a fun one no matter what. And these lines are just so high right now, right? These lines are plain and simple. They're just way too high. So where do I like taking unders? Actually is not on the main slate, but on the 1/2 slate. So on the first half slate, I love taking some of these unders. And it's not the sexiest play, right? It's not like you might want to hear me say, take Jackson Smith and Jigba over, right? Which we're definitely going to get some exposure to. But I do want to take some of these unders, right? For example, Matthew Stafford on passing yards, right? He's only hit this in 2 of the last 5 games. Obviously, he pops against the Saints, and he popped against the Niners last week. 138.5. If they have 1 or 2 punts in the first half, he's not hitting this line. Plain and simple, right? So he could have a huge second half, and that's why I don't want to take the whole game total under, because in the second half, you really are playing based off of how the cards are dealt, right? If you're going into the fourth quarter and you're down by, 10 points, you're going to throw the ball, right? In the first half, it really doesn't matter. You just want to put your best foot forward. And if there's a couple of drives where this strong Seahawks defense, let me state that one more time. Of all the 4 components of this game, right? Rams offense, Rams defense, Seahawks offense, Seahawks defense. I like the Seahawks defense better than all of those, right? I would go Seahawks defense, then Rams offense, then Seahawks offense, and then Rams defense. That's where I'm putting my cards. Although the Rams defense is great, I guess I have to list them last. I might put the Seahawks offense down there. But the whole point of me going through that rant was saying the Seahawks defense is so legit, right? They're legit. And I know Matthew Stafford is playing great, probably an MVP candidate right now. 138.5 passing yards, he could still have a great first half, right? He could throw for a touchdown and get 135 passing yards, right? And Puka Nacua could have 70 of those yards. And Devontae Adams could have another 40 of those. And he could still go under, right? That's just how high these lines are right now. That's literally, I'll compare it to some other lines for you, right? I'll just give you some random plays. And nobody's line is even close to touching this, right? You got Cam Ward sitting at 84, Davis Mills at 108, Aaron Rodgers at 120, Tua at 115. And I'm not saying Matthew Stafford is anywhere near the caliber of those players because we all know he's way better than them. But this line is too inflated, right? Sometimes you just got to look at the slate and just got to go, well, the public is all over that game, which means they're pushing the lines up. Because when the public is all over a game, nobody in the public is taking it under, right? The public just are out there to have fun, right? Most of them are. And they're just going to take over because it's more fun to watch, plain and simple. Matthew Stafford on the under, that's one great play. But like I said, we're getting some exposure to the guy who's about to break the freaking record for receiving yards. 96.5. Give me the over. Give me the over. I mean, what are we doing? 93 was his bad game. Should I say it that way? But let's be real. The only reason this game was bad for JSN was because he basically didn't play the second half, right? They were up, was it 28-3 by the time the halftime whistle was called? I'm not exactly sure. They were up a ridiculous amount. He already had his touchdown sorted. He already had like 80 yards. And then he basically just stopped playing. Like, look at this. This is the perfect metric. Offensive snaps, 42% of the offensive snaps JSN played. And if you look at the last games, 67%, 88%, 82%, 90%, right? 42% was such an anomaly, and he still managed to get 93 yards. So 96.5, I mean, at some point this insane streak has got to end, but I'm riding the hot hand, man. It seems like the Seahawks are too, and it's not slowing down now. I'm not going to jump off this train. So JSN, that's our next play. But let's move over to the Chiefs versus the Broncos. I think there's a ton of value here in taking the overs. So we like the over specifically for RJ Harvey. Now RJ Harvey, or J.K. Dobbins, is out, likely out for the season. RJ Harvey's going to have a major role, and we know where RJ Harvey can get involved, especially in this game against the Chiefs, where the Chiefs have a very solid defense, right? Very, very solid passing defense. RJ Harvey could, provide a good check down option for Bo Nix, and Honestly, I don't really know what to make of Bo Nix because he looked pretty good in the middle of the season, and then in that last primetime game, everybody was just able to, I guess, see him be exposed by a very mediocre Raiders defense and not be able to string together much of a drive at all, right? If that Bo Nix is what comes to play against the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't feel good in any Broncos player, right? I don't believe that's what Bo Nix says. I think he's going to dig deeper. They want to win this division, right? The Chiefs have won it 9 years in a row. The Broncos have the best chance they've ever had to win this division, and they're playing at home. They're 3.5-point underdogs, but they're playing at home. I know the Chiefs are solid. I know the Chiefs look great. I think the Broncos keep this one very close, and I think Archer Harvey is a big part of that. Now he's got a major role as a running back starting in this team. We're skipping Ravens versus Browns. Well, actually, I got one quick play. I already gave this out to the VIP, but I'll drop it in there for you guys. It's Lamar Jackson on rushing yards. This is just a very good system play. I mean, you look at the Browns rushing defense, and they're going to hold up Derrick Henry for sure, right? I like Derrick Henry on the under at 75. That feels too easy too. But they're going to hold up Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson is going to be able to find some holes. That's a simple play that you guys can go ahead and take and add to your own parlays. Now, moving into this last one, we got a banger Sunday Night Football matchup, Eagles versus Lions. I pray to God that the Eagles don't make this one another boring tush-push, grind out game that's just nobody wants to watch. And I don't think they will, because I think the Lions are actually going to force them, press the issue, force them to pass the ball, force them to make it exciting. And that's exactly why I like Jalen Hurts on the over. So this is going to be a bit of a weird play for most of you guys to really comprehend what we're doing here. But what we're saying is that the Lions are going to force the issue, right? The Lions are going to score quite a bit of points. And because of that, the Eagles will be forced to pass the ball instead of run the ball, right? And if we look at the Lions defense, they're very solid, like as all good teams are, but it's not like they're a number one lockdown type of defense, right? They're not the Houston Texans, they're not the Denver Broncos. So Jalen Hurts, as much as he is questionable at some points, he can easily go over this. Why didn't he go over against the Packers? Well, because there was not that many points scored in that game, right? I believe the final score was 10-7. That was the quintessential Eagles win, right? That's exactly how the Eagles want to play. And the Packers really just led right into their hand, right? They literally were like, oh, if that's why you want to play, we'll play it. The Lions aren't going to do that. The Lions know they're faster than the Eagles. They're shiftier than the Eagles. They're smarter than the Eagles. They are going to try to make this game up, fast, quick, fast-paced. And I expect Jalen Hurts to be able to have to match that, right? 200 yards, way too easy for JH. That's all I got for the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's cash.